What if Darth Vader time traveled to the Jedi Council? Let's start the story on Mustafar. Vader is sitting atop his mighty throne in his castle. He's meditating deep in the dark side of the Force, letting his thoughts wander as his anger takes him through his past. His mind latches on to a specific memory, when the Jedi Council denied him the rank of Master. This moment angers Vader the most, as he thinks back on the hypocrisy of the Jedi Council and takes pleasure in knowing that most of them are gone. But he decides to deepen his concentration on the Council, thinking back to the time of the Clone War and on each Master specifically, how every one of them wronged him at one point or another. He decided to focus this meditation session on the Jedi Council, using this to fuel his anger and thus his power. He thinks to himself, what if he was in front of the Council now? What would he do? And how much he would love to have the opportunity to stand before them again. And unknown to Vader, the Force answered his call. The currents of the Force swirled around him and captured Vader from the future and sent him back in time to the 3rd year of the Clone War as he appeared right in front of the Jedi Council. Vader opened his eyes. He was no longer in his throne room, no lava, no fortress, only the familiar hated sight of the Jedi Council chamber. All 12 seats, 12 Jedi, all alive, all watching him. He stood frozen as in front of them sat the Jedi of the past that he hated the most. Yoda, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi. They were all there. Vader ignited his blade as a reflex mechanism, the red crimson glow reflecting off the walls. The Council stood in response, a couple of them also igniting their lightsabers. Mace Windu stepped forward, demanding to know who this man was. Silence, except for Vader's breathing, captured the room. They could all sense the dark side coming from Vader. But that's not what shocked them the most. None of them could comprehend how this being could be here. He simply appeared out of thin air before them. Vader pauses, not knowing how to answer Windu. He asks himself, how did he get there? That the last thing he remembers is being at his palace. Could this scene in front of him be real? Could this really be the Jedi Council and he really was in the past? And the answer was yes. As arrogant as Vader was, he wasn't stupid and knew he was in the presence of enough strong Force users to defeat him, so couldn't make any rash decisions. He'd have to be smart about this. Vader's grip on his lightsaber tightened as the Council stared him down. Windu didn't take his eyes off him, but Ki-Adi-Mundi broke the silence next, asking Vader where he had come from and whom he served. Vader didn't ask right away. He let the silence stretch, his mask and breathing doing the talking for him. The more they stared, the more he could sense their unease. Finally he replied in short, telling them it didn't matter who he was, that all they needed to know is that he is the one that will destroy them all. The answer didn't go over well, Yoda warning Vader that such arrogance has no place in this chamber, especially when paired with the dark side of the Force. Vader's head tilted slightly and told them they would do well not to provoke him, because they had no idea what he's capable of. That was enough for Mace, declaring that anyone who entered the chamber uninvited, armed and dripping with darkness was a threat to the Republic. Obi-Wan glanced at Yoda, who glanced at Windu, and they all nodded. The decision was made, and Windu declared that the stranger in black was to be placed under arrest. Ki-Adi-Mundi tells Vader to come quietly, to put down his weapon, but of course that's not something Vader could do. And with an almighty throw, Vader launches his saber at the one Jedi in the room he hates the most, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this move wouldn't get past the 12 strongest Jedi of the age, who stop at mid-air with the Force, steal Vader's lightsaber off him, and place the Sith under arrest. They take Vader to the Jedi's prison in the Temple, as 4 Masters continue the interrogation. Windu, Obi-Wan, Yoda and Ki-Adi-Mundi. Yoda tells Vader that their scans indicate that all 4 of his limbs are prosthetic and his entire body is covered in scar tissue. Vader didn't speak, simply letting his breathing fill the silence. But Mundi follows, asking Vader if he knows who Darth Sidious really is. Vader chuckles under his breath, audibly for the Masters to hear, and tells them all it doesn't matter what they do, because Sidious will win. There's nothing they can do about it. But Yoda interrupts, telling Vader that the Force has not yet chosen a victor. Still prevail the Jedi might. But Vader's anger rises, telling Yoda that once again, the arrogance of the Jedi is present, that just because Yoda believes in something doesn't mean it will come true. But Yoda rebuts, asking Vader how he can be so sure that belief is a powerful ally. But Vader pauses deciding whether to reveal the truth, and he does, telling Yoda that he knows it to be true. Darth Sidious will win because he himself is from the future. The 4 Jedi Masters look at each other. This can't be true. The being in front of them must be lying. Obi-Wan gets an idea and fires Vader a question, asking him why out of everyone in the chamber, he threw his lightsaber at him. What could he possibly have against him? Vader's hatred rises. For years he hunted Kenobi, never to be successful, but here he is in front of him, younger, less powerful, with that subtle arrogance his master always portrayed. Vader's voice rises, telling Obi-Wan because he did this to him. He trapped him in this prison of a suit, and he will have his revenge. Vader turned and walked to the back of the cell, indicating that he would not answer any more questions, and the Jedi left him. But Vader wanted them to leave. His cell was designed for dangerous Force users with active dampening technology. The Jedi assume Vader's bulky suit is just armor and medical gear, but they underestimated how integrated and advanced it actually was. Inside the cell, Vader rerouted his power systems. The armor's life support generates immense amount of energy to keep his body functioning. By overclocking the regulators, he can release a concentrated EMP-like pulse strong enough to fry nearby electronics and disable the cell's energy barrier. He does this, but the price is temporarily shutting down his breathing apparatus. But this urgency fueled the Sith Lord. Vader ripped through the disabled door, Force pulls his saber to him, and cuts a path out of the detention block. He repairs his respiratory system and sneaks his way out of the Jedi Temple. Vader goes straight to the one person who might understand his position. He sneaks into the Senate offices, hidden under a delivery cart, concealing his presence in the Force. He uses the Force to manipulate the droid into delivering the cart to the office of the Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. When he arrived, he burst into his office and Palpatine stood immediately, sensing the dark side emanating from Vader. He pauses, extremely confused who this dark side user was, but then he looked at his helmet. It was one of the designs that he came up with years ago, and the rest of the suit was also his. The perfect suit for a servant of the dark side. How did this person get his schematics? And more importantly, how did he learn to use the dark side? Palpatine demands to know who this person is, and Vader responds, telling Palpatine that he's his apprentice, Lord Vader, from the future, and needs his help. Palpatine paused. Lord Vader, that's the name he was going to give Anakin. Could this really be Anakin from the future in front of him? But Palpatine jumps at this opportunity and asks Vader whether he knows how to get back to the future and manipulate time. But Vader tells them he does not, hence why he needs Palpatine's help. But this annoyed the Chancellor. He could have used Vader to manipulate time for himself, but that's impossible now. He peeks under Vader's mask and sees the scarred and deformed face and doesn't know whether this could really be Anakin. It's too damaged. But the fact that Vader was in one of his suits represents failure. Vader must have failed and lost in battle, which is not something Palpatine tolerated. Thus Vader represented failure and weakness, which he could not have. Vader being here could compromise his plans and only brings problems, and decides he must cut him loose. As Vader approached his window, Palpatine unleashed an almighty Sith lightning that hit Vader directly in the chest. He seized up immediately, and his electronics began screaming out in pain. Palpatine doubled down as the window behind Vader shattered, and Vader was sent flying out, similar to Windu all those years before him. Vader soared through the air, his suit damaged and clinging to life. Palpatine believed this would be the end of Vader. He knew the design of his suit intimately, and knows that Sith lightning is its greatest weakness. But he underestimated the resolve of Vader. Mid-air, Vader rethinks his choices. He's been in the past only a couple of hours, and only seen the Jedi Council and Palpatine. Two things he hates the most with a furious passion, whereas he should have been visiting the one he cared about the most, Padme. But more importantly, he should have used this opportunity to save her from her imminent death. Vader activates the small jets in his boots as he approaches the ground and pushes away with the Force, bracing his fall as he lands in a garbage disposal plant. He lays there alone once again, and his mind is only focused on Padme, but decides he still has one thing left to do in the past, to save himself. He wastes no time and goes to the Senator high-rise apartments where Anakin and Padme live. Anakin sensed him before he arrived as Vader landed on the balcony and walked through the living room. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, demanding to know who he is, that he must be the new Sith that escaped from the Jedi Temple. But Vader tells Anakin he's much more than that, but asks him to put his saber down, that there's no need for a fight, that indeed they are the same person. Anakin's grip tightened as Vader explained he had come from a future where Darth Sidious, or rather Chancellor Palpatine's plans, had succeeded, where the Jedi were gone and where Anakin had lost everything. Anakin couldn't believe it. Palpatine the Sith Lord, and this monstrous machine of a man in front of him, was indeed himself? Anakin demanded proof, as Vader told him something only Anakin would know. He didn't speak of battles or politics. It was about Padme. He spoke of how he loved her, about the way she laughed when no one else was around, the way she would tuck those strands of hair behind her ear when she was in deep thought, how she depressed her hand gently to his forearm before telling him something she knew he wouldn't want to hear, how they fell in love on the countryside of Naboo and got married at her lake house and planned to move there when the war is over. Every detail landed like a blade edge, and Anakin's grip on his lightsaber loosened ever so slightly. How could the stranger possibly know about these moments, especially about Padme and the secret cues he liked about her? There's only one way, if this man is really himself from the future. Vader stepped forward, telling Anakin that Palpatine was the Sith Lord the Jedi had been hunting for years, and that if he lived, Anakin's love for Padme would be the very thing he used to destroy him. He pressed on, saying that together they can change his fate. He doesn't have to turn out like him, scarred, deformed, and beaten, but rather, they could go to the Jedi Council together and expose Palpatine and stop everything before it begins. The Force had shown him some unimaginable things in the past. This man could really be from the future, and could really be himself. He decided to trust him, and together they go to the Jedi Temple. Anakin sneaks Vader under a cloth on a transporter droid, and they make their way up to the council chamber. The door opens, and Anakin walks in, taking off the sheet, revealing Vader in front of the Jedi Council for a second time. The council stood once again, Obi-Wan blaring at Anakin, asking him why they brought this thing in front of them again. Anakin tells them, this thing is Vader, and he has some very interesting things to say. Vader speaks, telling the council that Anakin is right. He's decided to reveal everything to the council with the hope of them making the right decision and not let their arrogance take over. He tells them all what he told Anakin, that he is Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker of the future, and is apprentice to Darth Sidious, aka Chancellor Palpatine. The council stood in silence, shocked at both Vader being future Anakin and Palpatine being the Sith Lord. But Ki-Adi-Mundi spoke up, saying neither of those are possible. Firstly, time travel, and secondly, they would know if Palpatine was a Sith Lord. But Vader questions that, asking them to think deeper about how Palpatine became Chancellor when he secretly manipulated the blockade on Naboo to garner support in the Senate. Blockade you know Darth Sidious was behind. How he stayed in power long after his term expired because he'd manipulated over half of the Senate to support him, using the corruption the Sith have instilled to his gain. And how is the war still going on? Because Palpatine is in cahoots with Count Dooku, his apprentice, and together, they've manipulated both sides with one purpose, to turn the galaxy against the Jedi, and it is working. The council thinks on this. Vader has some good points, and it's starting to make sense. But Windu tells Vader, even if that's true, it doesn't justify why he believes he's Anakin from the future. And Vader decides to risk it all, in front of the council. He takes off his helmet to reveal the scarred and deformed face of a 49-year-old Anakin Skywalker. They all looked at him shocked, even Anakin, and each one of them reached out with the Force, connecting with Vader, searching for answers about the truth of his identity, and the Force spoke back to them. They all sensed in Vader what they all sensed in the young Anakin that was before them. It was true, Vader really was Anakin from the future. Vader put his helmet back on, and Kenobi asks him how this is possible, who tells Obi-Wan he's not sure. The Force merely sent him into the past when he was meditating, maybe to change the mistakes and rewrite the past to change the future. Yoda stared deeply at Vader, asking him if it's really true. Is Palpatine really Darth Sidious? Vader nods, telling them that Palpatine took everything from all of them in this room, and it's time to stop him before he can do it again. And Vader tells them he'll go to him whether they join him or not. But the council look around at each other, all determined and with the same resolve, and Windu declares that Palpatine is under arrest. The entire council and Anakin by their side stormed into the Chancellor Palpatine's office. The Chancellor rose in shock, unsure what this visit meant, but he realized the truth as he saw Vader with them. Somehow he had survived his fall and had snitched to the Jedi Council, and for this, he must pay. Palpatine sent lightning at all of them with one hand, hoping to distract them, and with the other, activated his communication system, connecting with all clone commanders, executing Order 66. He waits, expecting to feel the death of the light side in the galaxy, expecting to feel the death of the light side in the Force, using it to fuel him in this fight and overcome the Jedi Council. But nothing happens. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, nothing. He looked up as Windu was smirking back at him, and Palpatine stopped his lightning, as Windu told him that Order 66 will not be working for him, especially if the communications coming from the Senate building have been blocked. Palpatine made a run for it, throwing his lightsaber through the newly repaired glass, and went to jump, but with all their combined strength, the Council grabbed Palpatine with the Force, pulled him back in, and placed him under arrest. The Jedi deal with the political outfall over the following weeks. They temporarily have to take over the Senate to facilitate a peaceful transition of power while still fighting in the Clone War. With Palpatine's arrest, the Sith no longer played both sides of the war, and now it was the Jedi against Count Dooku's separatists. Vader decided to join in on the fight, providing a unique tactical advantage from his past, which helped the Jedi take their edge in the war. Firstly, General Grievous was tracked down and defeated by Obi-Wan, whereas Anakin and Vader hunted and killed Count Dooku. With this, the war was over, and the peaceful transition of power was complete, with Bail Organa elected as Supreme Chancellor to deal with and fix the post-war Republic. Meanwhile, over the coming days, some big decisions were made. Padme had just found out she was pregnant, and together, at least for now, Anakin and Padme decided it's time to leave behind their lives on Coruscant. Together they helped the Republic in their respective ways, and now had to be selfish and focus on their own lives and family. Anakin told the Council the truth, who were disappointed in him, but ultimately wished him the best and wanted to remain in contact, that should he need anything, to reach out, and Anakin told them to do the same. But Obi-Wan wasn't disappointed. He hugged his apprentice deeply as he left for Naboo, telling Anakin he couldn't be more proud of him, that he had truly become the Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn had hoped. This brought a tear to Anakin's eye, and for now, the two brothers would be apart. Vader joined Anakin and Padme on Naboo temporarily. Padme was initially scared of Vader, but after Anakin helped her realize that he really was just himself from a different time, she started to soften up on him. One night, Vader and Anakin stood on the balcony, looking over the vast plains of Naboo, as Anakin asked Vader if he could tell him the truth of his past, how and why he turned to the dark side, and the fate of their loved ones. Vader was initially skeptical, but knew the truth would help protect Anakin from making any similar mistakes in the future. He told him of Padme's pregnancy, his nightmares, Palpatine's manipulations with promises of saving her, force choking Padme on Mustafar, and his defeat to his master, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They stood in silence for 15 minutes after Vader finished, and Anakin processed it all. But he broke the silence, thanking Vader, that without his knowledge, he likely would have suffered the same fate and couldn't have done it without him. He asks Vader what he'll do now, who tells Anakin he must leave and find his purpose. There is nothing left for him on Naboo or Coruscant, and he must find his path in the Force elsewhere. They hug, and Anakin tells him to visit often, that he's always welcome here with his family. Vader leaves as the next journey into the galaxy begins. He doesn't know what it will entail, but he has faith the Force will lay the path out for him. Meanwhile, a couple weeks later, as Vader's ship cut through the uncharted expanse of the unknown regions, the Force began to pull at him, subtly at first, but then irresistible. His path bent forward into a hidden star system, cloaked in shifting mists, and within it, the ancient realm of Mortis. Stepping into the otherworldly light, Vader was confronted, not by enemies, but by visions. The son, the daughter, and the father. However, the father was frail, withered, and on his last echoes of life. For the first time, Vader understood that his destiny here was not to serve the dark side of the Force or destroy the light, but to claim the mantle of the father, the eternal keeper of balance. Hey guys, over at Fantasy Sabers, for the entire month of August, we're giving away a free The Sun Deluxe edition with every Saber order. We offer the best NeoPixels on the market, so grab one for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Darth Vader time traveled to save Padme or to save Anakin. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. For the entire month of August, we're giving away a free The Sun Deluxe with every order, so don't miss out. May the Force be with you, and we'll see you all next time.